Levan SAGINASHVILI has been recovering from a wrist injury for quite some time now. He has a little less than 4 months at this point to be 100% healthy and at 100% of his previous peak strength level before facing Devin Larratt. We hadn't really seen anything conclusive from Levan about his current level for a while, but yesterday Levan posted some footage of him and IRAKLI ZIRAKASHVILI sparring on Instagram. Although this may not be as measurable as something like a wrist curl, this does give us some sort of guess as to how Levan's recovery is going. Let's take a look. So as we would probably expect, Levan is looking very dominant. We see Levan initiate with lat drag, indicating that he's partially allowing IRAKLI to top roll into his wrist. However, Levan is still using a high degree of elbow flexion by the looks of it, so he's not solely using lat drag and cup in order to really test his wrist to the max. He's still protecting his wrist with some elbow flexion and wrist rise. We see IRAKLI start to hit sideways, but you can tell that he is losing hand control as he attempts to go toward the pin pad. It looks to me like IRAKLI is struggling to obtain a position in which he can unleash the full power of his top roll, rather than just not having enough top roll power to attack Levan's wrist in the first place. This tells me that Levan might still be a little bit concerned about his wrist. This becomes more apparent if we take a look at some of Levan and IRAKLI's sparring before Levan got hurt. This practice is from almost exactly a year ago, as it's labeled New Year's Sparring. Notice how Levan totally surrenders height in this practice pull. IRAKLI's knuckles are way higher than Levan's knuckles. Off the go of the match, Levan is taking a lower grip and allowing IRAKLI to put 100% of his top roll power directly into Levan's wrist. Levan is so ridiculously strong that he literally just contains IRAKLI's entire top roll chain only with his cupping. Levan might be the only guy in the world who is capable of doing this. Notice how in this pull, we don't really see IRAKLI failing to go sideways because his wrist is getting cracked back or he doesn't have connection to his power. IRAKLI has all the connection to his power he could want, it's just that Levan is still way too strong. We can see that Levan is allowing himself to be in somewhat of a palm-up position much of the time. Back to the more recent sparring, we see that Levan is not fully gifting IRAKLI his power. He is still denying IRAKLI's access to his power to a certain extent. Now, all of that being said, I'm being pretty picky and Levan is looking really strong right now. His overall top roll chain all working together is looking phenomenal. But I do still wonder about his wrist specifically. It appears as though he may not quite be as confident as he was before the injury. Although all of this is totally speculation. It could be that Levan is setting up differently against IRAKLI than he has in the past because his wrist isn't quite 100%, but it might also be that he just wants to train in that angle. It may have nothing at all to do with the injury. So I would still love to see Levan doing something like some heavy wrist curls or maybe a heavy weight on a common cupping handle that is easy to measure. This would give us a much more accurate reading of Levan's current wrist integrity. But obviously, regardless of angle, it's going to take a lot of cupping to contain IRAKLI's top roll. So I think Levan is clearly feeling at least pretty good, or else he wouldn't be doing this at all. IRAKLI is in Devin, but Levan still has a few more months of progression. I look forward to see Levan's wrist continuing to improve in the coming months. I wonder if he can get back up to that world record wrist curl level or maybe even surpass it. If Levan can manage to break his 100 kilo wrist curl record before April, Devin is probably in big trouble.